welcome to the Ann Arbor Human Rights Commission. Let's start with roll call.
Okay.
Kennedy.
Meeting is called to order at 7:02 p.m. Roll call. Chair Stanball.
Here.
Vice Chair Garber.
Here.
Commissioner Winkler.
Here.
Commissioner Bond.
Here.
Commissioner Knoll. Here. Commissioner Lane. Here. Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Meadows. Commissioner Cohen. Councilmember Watson.
Here.
And Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to the agenda.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Do I need to vote now on that?
I believe.
I think so, huh?
Just say all in favor.
All in favor and everybody say aye. Okay. Agenda. Any changes, additions, or subtractions? Aisha, did you want to add one?
I did.
I thought.
So I wanted to add to under internal business or new business.
Yes. Or is it new business or?
Maybe new business.
Is it business for us though? Or?
No.
Okay.
So it's really not.
How about internal?
Okay, internal business. Working on something around homeless people in sweeps that is very new, but I want to share it with you guys. And I'll let you know when the right time would be to potentially get involved.
Point of clarification, do you want to add that under follow-up on on-site group work after city council updates?
Yes,
yeah.
that's where I'm putting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it again?
It's a resolution around homeless sweeps, so sweeps of encampments, of homeless encampments.
Oh, sweeps.
Yeah, which became, by the Supreme Court, legal for cities to do, kind of without any regard for
So like city homeless encampments.
Yep, sweeping homeless encampments, and potentially following up protocol around it. I can talk about it more when
Oh,
you
yeah.
Okay. Oh, I was just trying to put it.
Yeah, I know. I got confused, and I felt like I was in the middle of it.
Okay, any more discussion of the agenda? All in favor?
I can't vote.
You can't vote, but it's okay.
I got caught up in
It's an honor. We appreciate your
You sucked it right in.
The next thing I have on the agenda is introduction to two new commissioners. I'm very excited to introduce you to these people. I met with them both, each for about an hour each. Did a little bit of orientation. They're wonderful. We'll love them. And I told them, just to full disclosure, I told them you were too. So act well. It's the first time. Perhaps we should go around first and introduce the rest of us so that they know who they're talking to. But I'm going to give them a couple. Do you think we should do that or just let them talk in the dark without knowing who we are, really? Good. We should go around. Brandon, why don't you start? Just a few, just so you're memorable.
Okay. So my name is Brandon Bond, pronouns he, his. I am full-time job-wise, work at the University of Michigan as the mental health and well-being lead in LSA. So I embed strategic and structural mental health strategies into the college. And I've been a commissioner since, I believe, November 2022. So still fairly new, but yeah, getting my bearings here and there.
Oh, here they are.
He's here.
Welcome. Kennedy. Well, we'll
Do you want to
make
do
you
commissioners first? I can go last.
You can go last. You can go in.
Go ahead on that one. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Peter Garber. Been on this commission about 4 years, maybe 5-ish. I should know. I came on the commission after I retired. I worked for the courts, friend of the court, family court. I was director and hearing officer and many other hats in that agency for many years. And now I'm here.
Thank you. And I'm Leslie Stanbaugh. I'm the chair. I started here a long time ago, before most of you were probably born. No, about
Before I was
20
born.
years. Yes, before you were born. And I'm a management consultant, and I'm here reflecting my earlier training as a political scientist. So that's what I do. No, we'll leave you last.
Hi, Aisha Ghazi Edwin. I use pronouns she and hers. City council member. And I had the honor of having Hannah as a student of mine, and she worked with you guys. Well, I joined the commission in 2019, and then I was elected to city council in 2022. So my first experience with city government was through this commission, which was amazing. And during that time, I had integrated some of your guys' work into a school social work class, and she was the student. And now it's full circle. I remember the end of the class being you guys should all join commission. Yes.
I didn't realize. I
Yeah,
knew
I
she
can't
was your
believe that was
student. I
an
didn't
intro.
realize
Yes.
you'd done.
She did work with us, yeah.
That's exciting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Linda Winkler. I have been on not quite as long as Leslie, but something like 14 years. I'm trained as a lawyer and a mediator.
Chris Watson. I'm a council member for Ward 2, which is the northeast side of Ann Arbor. This is probably about my third HRC meeting. I started replacing Councilmember Song, and I'm glad to be continuing for at least another term here. So.
We're glad to have you. Keita.
Hi, I'm Keita Callan. I don't know how long I've been on the commission. Let's say 5 years. A good round number. I'm an attorney by training. I developed the Washington ID card and the Detroit ID and the Kalamazoo ID, and we've sort of brought them all together under this local government ID. And Leslie's called about it, and now other calls are beginning to come in. People are interested again in getting the program more aggressive and helping people get ready for the unknown days to come. So happy to do that.
Great product.
And this commission was instrumental in both forming, I think the first year I was here, the commission had just finished drafting the report that established, right, the oversight, the police oversight commission. Right, that was fabulous. And then just during my time here, I forget, I think it was you that said something, yes, about the way in which Ann Arbor led in establishing food stamps and other forms of housing subsidies as currency that should count the same as income for qualifying for housing. And with that, sort of light bulb went on. We were able to work with the city and the city attorney's office, and they helped draft
The source
a,
of
yeah.
wasn't me, but thank you.
We did talk about that.
Oh, yeah, it could have been.
But they-
yeah, I think Corinne and, the people who had been working in housing, I was,
okay.
who knew more about it. But anyway, yes.
Yeah, so the
protection
commission
for
has really, just pushed it forward
Yeah.
because in my research, we are one of the first
Yeah.
cities, right, to establish the right to ID and to establish ID discrimination. And when a government-issued ID photograph is the same as any other government-issued.
And fair chance to housing, but I don't think we're one of the first, but it's still,
Oh, we're early in
we're
the...
early in that. Yeah, this commission is it's historic, established by city charter, not to take over what you're probably going to say. But they've done some pretty amazing stuff, like ban on conversion therapy,
Right. You did
a
that.
bunch of different stuff.
Right,
Thank you.
right, but yeah, fair chance housing's pretty fabulous.
I told them
Yeah.
that they were really lucky to be in this commission. We're good. No. Rebecca.
Sure.
How about introducing yourself?
Sure. So my name's Rebecca Knoll. I've lived in Ann Arbor going on 9 years now. I work at the University of Michigan. I work in fraternity and sorority life, so I do risk prevention, like anti-hazing, and loop that back all into mental health through our 8 dimensions of wellness that I'm sure you're very familiar with. And so I've been, before that, I was at the Alumni Association, and that's how I met Travis, and he was the one who was like, hey, I think you'd like this. And so overall, I've been at the institution for almost 7 years now. Anything else? No.
That's a good
Okay,
start.
perfect.
We'll find out more
Okay,
about you as time goes on. Hannah?
Hi, I'm Hannah. My introduction to Ann Arbor was through the university. I started in 2016 and I just never left. So now I live here full time. I work for Washtenaw County in the Office of Community and Economic Development. So my office does a lot of different stuff, but notably we do stuff with the homeless population. We have senior supportive services, a home improvement program, and financial counsel, a lot of different stuff, so which I'm sure you'll learn about and you might already be familiar with. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Terrific. Good group. We're excited.
And last but not least,
Yes.
thank you. I'm Kennedy
Oh,
Lawyer
that's
Cummings. I'm the commission staff liaison, so I'm the one who manages the commission for you all. So if there's anything you guys ever need, I'm there. We've both communicated. We're from A2Y, so here to help. But if you have any questions, just let me know.
Excellent. Let's go on. Follow up with outside group work.
Approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes. Oh, yes, thank you. Approval of the minutes. Does everybody have a copy of the minutes? Oh, that's right. Thank you. And is there any public comment?
And public comment.
I'm not for this. What are you talking about?
Oh my goodness. So
Public comments?
We see no public comment.
Oh,
we have online joiners.
I was just wondering.
We really don't, do we?
No, we don't do public comments only in person for HRC.
I knew that.
Minutes.
Minutes. Can we have a motion to approve the
I move
minutes?
we approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Discussion of the minutes. Does anybody have any changes? I have one. No one else has any? My one is on page 2 at the bottom. And it's simply a change of wording here. It should read, right to sit amendment, not ordinance. L. Winkler reported that City Council approved the addition of the non-discrimination ordinance.
No, in addition to the non-discrimination.
I know, I can't read. Of the right to sit amendment.
No, I think it's okay as it is, to the non-discrimination ordinance of a right to sit for employees. I mean, but if you
okay.
want it,
I mean,
it's
addition,
okay.
it means amendment, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stands good to me.
Okay,
I mean, it doesn't really matter, it's just a little redundant, I think.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
pretty
sorry.
Should be right.
It's not a big deal either way.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Does anybody have any problems with that? No other
Whatever you
changes?
want.
When you say employees, you mean any employee, right? Not just City of Ann Arbor employees.
No, yes, it says employees.
Yeah.
Great. Should we say employees in Ann Arbor?
I mean, it's the minute. It's the minute.
No,
It's the minutes, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's just a reference to it. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make it clear that it's not an ordinance.
Sure.
Vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Okay. Follow up on ongoing HR, follow up on outside group work. City Council overview, Aisha and Chris.
I just have a quick thing.
Yeah, go for it.
This is just on, just an update on the next agenda for Monday. There's a little bit of a reallocation because the city's budget for fiscal year 24 came in a little better than expected. So one of the line items that we're adding is $1 million in funding to be able to respond to potential negative or debilitating impacts at the local level due to the change in the federal government administration. So I think this is very important because we're imagining social services may be impacted. We're imagining, impacts on homeless community, all kinds of communities actually. So I just wanted to let you know we're forward thinking on that.
How could that that funding be accessed?
Remains to be seen because the administration isn't yet. Yeah, the administration isn't yet in, but that's a
I
piece from the
think
administration.
there are some potentially
Yeah.
critical human rights issues.
Yeah.
To
But
be
is
talked
it,
about.
but they don't, would somebody have to go through city council?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that'll be part of the kind of. Basically, the administrator would have to put forward, or council could put forward amendments, but we're just holding aside the money.
Thank
at this
you.
point. Yeah.
Good thinking. Anything else? Aisha? Anything that's going on that is especially interesting to the Human Rights Commission for some reason?
I wish I could think of more. I mean, that was a really good one. I know that there's also money left over that we're going to allocate potentially to some of, well, this isn't really human rights specific, but Bicentennial Park, which is the first, park in the city that has fully accessible playground and splash pad for people with disabilities, and potentially also Elks Lodge, which is a historic Black lodge and like social site, basically. I don't have. I'm thinking about housing. Do you have something? I feel like there's something on housing I can't access in my brain.
You're talking about on the upcoming agenda?
No recent agenda.
Oh.
Maybe not.
I don't know.
It's okay.
Do you know if there was anything in the budget about restoring the money that was allocated for unarmed response?
Oh yeah. Sorry, that is. I meant to include that. That is part of that. As part of the. It's a $2.75 million surplus that we have, and so yes, part of it will be also $250,000 for unarmed response. So that'll be keeping earmark as we get that program running.
Thank you.
Mm.
Not very much. Okay. Aisha, you want to talk about homelessness?
Yeah. So, to talk about it generally, because it involves right now some housing advocates and housing kind of leaders in the community. You all may know in June 2024, the Supreme Court made a ruling that allowed for cities to clear encampments and, to have that authority. And there's really nothing that stipulates that they have to give them any, forewarning or help them with the transitionary services or help them to find housing or store their belongings. So there's been some incidences that have come up, really on land that's state land within the city, involving the state and the county. But we want to be proactive and do what we can. So right now I'm exploring a resolution that would help to protect homelessness, their dignity, possessions, give them maybe 30 days warning and 45 days of storage, and they must respond with PATH, which is a county service. So that's something we're exploring, we're talking about, I'm working on it with housing advocates. And when it gets to a place where human rights should get involved, I'll let you know.
Did we have encampments last year?
Did we have encampments?
Yeah.
I think we do. We have encampments sporadically that pop up in different locations, yeah.
Yeah. And do we still have camp? What was it called? There was a camp.
There's a camp with a name behind Kroger on Miller and Maple. I think it's called Camp Like Peace.
I don't remember. I had somebody here talking about it a long time ago. Oh, well, a couple years ago.
Okay.
And I have this number. I don't remember offhand. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's it. Follow up on ongoing HRC work, starting with Judah complaints.
Let's see, we had the ones that were outstanding are being handled and all but formally wrapped up. And there are 2 new ones came in, and they have been allocated. So.
Can I ask a question? Are you guys overall seeing a rise in the number of human rights complaints?
I don't think so.
No.
It's been,
Although we've gotten...
Seems like somewhere around 20-ish a year.
Yes.
And it seems pretty consistent in the last 3 or 4 years.
I think so. But I think there have been more in the last few months. But I don't know. I haven't seen I don't know what a pattern looks like from year to year. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do start getting a lot more.
Well, the right to sit ones, we haven't seen one yet, but
That's right.
when- if and when they start coming
The word isn't
in.
really out there, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that.
We'll get to
We
it.
haven't gotten any
Right,
calls
that
about
might be
that, have
something
we?
that I do know of one person who tried to implement it themselves at their job.
Oh, really?
But it was prior to it going into effect.
Oh,
And they were let go.
They were let go.
Let go.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
Oh, boy.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, would be definitely interested in talking about how do we get out the word.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Okay. I want to make an announcement that January, if you remember, is our election of officers. And if you want to run or want to nominate somebody, call Pam. She's not here, so I can say that, but she's done it for the last couple of years. I'm sure she's willing to do that. And you have this new directory, so everybody knows how to get a hold of Pam, but she's not here. And I assume that Judah is running.
I am fine serving another term, but if someone's interested, then they shouldn't hold back.
How about you, Leslie? Are you interested?
I will.
Willing? Are you willing? Will you?
I will.
Okay.
How long have you been chair for?
A long time.
Like since the chart, like since 1970 something? Or like, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
No.
You said you've been chair.
Since before I was.
Only young people can be that cruel.
No, who's not trying to be cruel? But really, how long has it been?
It's probably been since 20,
Probably like,
05 or 6 or so.
oh, no, I don't think so.
So 20 years?
You think it was that long? I think it was around 20, shortly before we were able to get all the changes to the non-discrimination ordinance. I would have thought like 2010 or something like that.
Oh. That might have been.
Because that's when things started happening, when you became chair.
I don't know. I can tell you that I have notebooks like this from 2013 on.
Yeah,
I mean-
that's what I would, so that's what I mean. I think that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like,
Maybe it's not that long.
Yeah.
Who was the chair before?
It was really, the problem was, for the newcomers, this might be useful. There was a Department of Human Rights that existed in the city that was supposed to enforce the non-discrimination ordinance. And the non-discrimination ordinance said that it should be enforced by this department, and that this commission was supposed to sort of be a supportive commission. It wasn't at all clear what this commission was supposed to do. But the city got rid of the Human Rights Department somewhere around the year 2000. And so when Leslie and I joined, we would sit at these meetings, and it just seemed like people didn't know why they were here. And so eventually we looked at the non-discrimination ordinance, and we saw the problem, and that's when we started talking to the city attorney's office. And it was a bit of a battle because nobody likes change, and nobody wanted to give a commission enforcement power.
Right.
But
And
because
everybody
there was no
resigned.
department to do it, and they weren't willing to fund a department, it was either have this protection and have it enforced or don't. And so it took us years, and we added protected classes that weren't there, including political beliefs, which was kind of controversial at the time. Anyway, so that sort of, it wasn't really till 2015. So in 2014, the ordinance was
That's right.
revised, giving this commission enforcement power. And then it took a few years for things to start happening after that, creating the complaint forms, and we had no administrative staff at that point, none. So it was just sort of
website, no phone number, no,
So it's
no email
it's
address.
been sort of,
It's horrible.
So you guys are coming in when we're like at the top of our game, which isn't all that high, but it's
I mean, it is a big deal that you guys review
There's
complaints.
so much to live up
Yes, it
to. We're at the
was.
top of our
It is a big deal. I mean, we have attorneys that review complaints in addition to city attorney. That is a huge deal
right.
in terms of
and-
enforcement.
Right.
Chris?
Yeah, no, this is a big deal. I mean, I think in terms of city commissions that have a clear, both a mandate and, as you're saying, enforcement authority, it's a big deal. There's very few. I'm just over here trying to see when the earliest HRC minutes we have on the web, and it looks like about 2016 we started getting we've got the web minutes.
Chris is
Well,
good
that's
at
only
looking up
because,
that.
yes, it was because I wrote the minutes.
Wow.
And I have them in my folder if you want to look at them.
Okay. So maybe that was too much.
It was a good history.
No, that's good history.
Yeah. Strategic planning goal efforts. We did strategic planning in July and August. We had 2 sessions, and we came up with a lot of things that we think, now that we're, really established, we needed some more formal procedures. And we had, I guess, 7 goals, and these are the people who said they would be responsible. We decided we would do quarterly reports to see how the progress of the goals were. Goals often have deadlines. The first one is about commissioner orientation. So you two may be trying out a new orientation, possibly, but Linda's in charge of that.
I've been, I
Linda?
started working on it. I mean, the truth is, most of the things that new people would need to know are already on our website. If you were to really study the website and click on all the links, you'd kind of know pretty much everything you need to know. But what I'm trying to do is sort of organize it, just kind of the basics, and we can add to it as we go, and it'll be in a Google Doc that can be shared with everybody. And I guess I'd be interested in knowing, maybe from you two or the newer people, you can sort of look at this Google Doc and say, what questions do you want answered, basically, that aren't immediately apparent from the website or these documents. I mean, a lot of things you just kind of learn quickly as you come to these meetings. And I'm a little wary of putting too much information in an orientation packet, because then it's overwhelming and it feels like just the basics is what you need. Brandon sent a whole outline with a lot of potential things which could be added if, anyway, I've just started working on it, so I haven't even shared it with anybody. I'll add a little more to it, including a little bit of the history, which because I think it's important for people to know it wasn't always like this. It's relatively recent. But if you have any questions or things you want to tell me now, please do. Yeah.
So when do you think you're going to have this?
I mean, it's, it'll be in some form or other anytime I just share it with people. And we'll just keep adding to it.
There'll be a dynamic.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of a hard copy and notebooks, I guess I would send it to Kennedy and ask her to just, I don't know. I'll have to figure out what makes sense. Would you want hard copies as new people? Are you happy with the digital?
Digital's fine.
Yeah, digital is also fine. I think when it's digital, you can also change it easy, and that way someone can have the most up-to-date copy as compared to if it's,
Right.
paper. It might be 3 times out of date at that point. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Your input will be very helpful in this process.
Yeah.
Thank you. Complaint handling, Judah.
We're handling complaints.
That was for the meeting. Remember, we're going to have a training meeting, right? Oh, that was 3. I'm sorry.
So,
That's me.
I'm not sure the
Oh,
distinction,
I'm
because I
sorry.
see your name
What
next to
is
the next thing, but
difference?
I'm not sure what the difference is. Basically, what we're doing is, after each monthly meeting,
Right.
we're reserving some time for people who are working on complaints to meet and just kind of talk about them. share ideas, approaches. We can't have more than 4 people at that meeting without violating the Open Meeting Act. But, so today, well, let's see. Pam's working on one, but she's not here. So if Noel could come, I've got a new one. And then why don't you, if you have a few minutes, stick around, and you have a few minutes afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's 4 people, and we can talk about the 2 latest ones.
Great.
Anyway, we try to do that each month, and then at the end of the year, we will have a dedicated session for everyone. Either call it a retreat, call it a training for complaint handling, whatever you want to call it. Sometime probably in the summer is what I think we were talking about.
Yeah. And if you don't have a complaint and we don't have 4 people, you might want to stay because they're very interesting and they give you a good sense of what the kinds of problems you run into. One of the problems with our complaints, by the way, is that every single one of them is very different from every other. I mean, every time we try to write steps, and you do have a copy, I sent you a copy of the steps, but they mean different things depending on what you're dealing with, and we're still learning. It's confusing, but you're welcome to stay later if you don't have 4 people. That's all?
Yeah.
Probably enough. Complaint handling training.
Well, that's what Judah was talking about too. We were going to, I think March or something is what the strategic plan said, but sometime during the year, hopefully we can all come together and talk about complaints. I guess it would have to be an open meeting, but we would not identify any of the complainants publicly and talk mostly about various scenarios and how they've been handled and what we can do better.
Right. The complaints aren't necessarily confidential, but most of the complainants don't want to have them aired publicly, so that's why I'm not mentioning them in any detail here. And there might be circumstances where they're like, yeah, tell the world, screaming from the rooftops, but that's not usually the case. And we would want to make sure we have clarity from the complainant before we discuss it in any public forum.
I have a quick question. I noticed on the website that you had like a year-end summary of like all the complaints that you had gotten. You did like a little report.
We do an annual report, yes.
Do you put all the complaints on there, or is it only people you get permission from? Or
No,
it's just, like,
everyone has to be listed on there. It's an inventory.
It's just
But
very
it's
vague.
written very, very vague, and no names.
No names are
Okay.
listed, but the category, right?
Yes.
And whether it was resolved or not resolved or whatever.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that.
Speaking of which, I have a follow-up question. On the 2023 annual report, were you still waiting for some things before? Because I noticed it's not on our website yet.
Yes, I know it's not on our
Okay,
website
so
yet, but it will be very soon. In fact, I guess you attach it to the minutes and send it to each of the city council people, the annual report.
You guys never approved it.
No, I know. I just want you to know it's coming.
Oh, yeah,
Very
once
quickly.
it's
That's-
approved.
Yeah, that was
yes.
my question. Yeah.
Oh, no,
It's
you're
just
good.
question
So, like,
about what
last
to
year,
do.
when it's approved by the commission, I'll then send it out to
Oh.
city council.
I thought we approved it pending you making a couple
It's
changes.
the changes, and it's not clear how I should.
Oh,
I mean, I may
All
just-
right, whatever. As long as it's
Yeah.
on your radar, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely
Sorry.
on my
You're
radar.
okay.
Okay. Events participation. Brandon. No, yes.
Yeah. So made quite a bit of progress for it. I have a working template for it. I shared it out with, I think, the others that were noted in this section. So it's hard to see. I wanted to get their feedback before sending it to everyone else, but it's really pretty straightforward, simple, easy spreadsheet. And I can send it out afterwards. So essentially, you'll just type in the event name, who's hosting it, their contact information, when does it start, end, what's expected from us, whether we're just tabling, are we just going to show support or whatever else, where is it at, what commissioners are going to it, and then hopefully after the events, just provide a couple of debrief notes of, is this a good event to go to annually? Did you make any connections that we want to follow up on or anything like that? So it's not just I went and now it's done, but we have a little bit more follow up there. So yeah, I can send that out. I wanted to get initial feedback first, but it seems like it should hopefully be fine with that. So yeah.
And you're going to put that in a Google Drive when it's up, when it's
Yes.
up and running?
Yes.
And so each of us will be responsible for any events we identify for filling that out, and any events that other people, and maybe Kennedy will tell us about one, or
Yeah.
one of us, and
Yeah, we'll all have access to it. We can all edit it and.
so sort of whoever's the lead on that trip.
Yeah, because it can just be like even if you can't go, but you just know of it, you think other people it would be good for us to know. Just add it here. If you're going, add it here. But it could hopefully give us like an inventory, help us keep track. I think it's also important, like accountability-wise, that we keep talking about being in the community, talking with people, getting recognition of the work that we do, or making sure that people recognize the work that we do so that they can get support. So this can be a way of tracking that as well when we're thinking about metrics of how do we measure our reach, our impact as well too.
Yeah.
So this will hopefully be like a really quick and simple way of doing that.
Yeah, also, I think it'll be good for us to identify where we're not going.
Yeah.
If we're heavy on one kind of a group and light on other people. That'll be very useful.
So yeah, I will send this out hopefully this week. I'll do like a last check to make sure everything's there. I might add like a tab for just any additional notes or instructions, but that's essentially the goal is essentially done. Just gotta use it now.
That's great. Pam is going to talk about, we were thinking about we need to do more outreach. People need to know about us and also know about their rights. And Pam was believes that we should be doing things on CTN. We're all scared, but Pam is not here, so I'm going to ask her next time. Brandon, you have another one, HRC Resource Drive.
Yes, back at it. So for our newer commissioners, essentially the goal was to try to centralize and organize the information and documents and materials we have. So this will hopefully be a way to essentially make like a shared drive or Google Drive, where we'll have different folders allocated to different materials to just make sure things are as organized and efficient as possible. So for this, I haven't made the drive just yet, but I made kind of like a implementation plan just to get feedback first and then go forward with it to make sure that things seem to be in alignment. So essentially I have it broken into a couple of different sections for this plan. One will just be resources for Google Suite tools. So just making sure that we all are able to navigate it in the best way possible. So we'll have different resources that can explain the different tools within the suite, and then I can also help to provide like one-on-one assistance as well too as needed. So that's kind of like the first half of just thinking about the user experience aspect of it. And then the second part of the plan is essentially the folder structure and the information that'll go inside of that. So having a section for monthly agendas and meeting minutes, a section for our published resolutions and ordinances, section for event photos and media, another one for HRC one-pagers and outreach materials, and then a folder for student project notes and presentations as well. That's not all inclusive, like I'm sure there'll be other things that pop up too, but just to start off, those seem to be like the documents that we typically frequent. So yeah, essentially we'll make that. Everyone will have access, or all HRC commissioners and our office manager as well. So yeah, that's essentially that piece. And I also have a section for information not to share in the drive. So anything that has personal identifiable information, we'll have to figure out a better way of navigating that. I know Google isn't always the most secure and everything. There were some concerns around having some of that information in the drive as well too. So that will have to be an additional conversation. Additionally, anything that's confidential or internal documents that aren't intended for public view or that have like really sensitive information, that won't be included in the drive. at least at this point. And then, yeah, just talking about the prohibited information we'll have to figure out a better plan for how to navigate that, and then have a post-launch maintenance support plan of doing quarterly checks and providing ongoing support if people need it to navigate the drive, and then ensuring that we have like a quick conversation or just feedback collection at our planning meeting to see if this is up to par, and yeah, where we need to go from there. So yeah, essentially just wanted to make the plan first, check with people to see how it's going, and then it should be really quick and easy to actually create it and then share that out too. So that's where I'm at.
Great. And it doesn't include complaints.
No,
Because
it will not include complaints. It
No.
can include, I guess, just like with the checklist of like how do you process it, it can include stuff like that. But in terms of people's actual names or anything, forms, call logs, it won't include that.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a lot of work. That'll be very helpful. Mine was the documentation process. And it was a good time for me because I had just finished the 2023 annual report. And I'm beginning the 2024 annual report as soon as I get this last 3 lines written. Where I start by looking at all the meeting minutes and agenda items for the year to see what we did, and it's difficult to put together. I mean, part of the reason it takes so long is part of it is that you have to wait till the end of the year, but also because what we have is you've got to go through it all from scratch and sort of get it ready. So this helped me think about what kind of indexing we needed to make that simpler. Because the stuff is there. I mean, it's not like stuff is that we don't have the documentation. We have it, but in lots of different places, and it's difficult. So I'm going to start with January and play around with. I'm going to start with something, and as things happen, I will probably remember, oh, this should be documented too, and I will add that. And so I think by February 25th, which was my deadline, I will have something for you. And you can respond to that. So good, we did it. This is the first time. Thank you very much, Brandon. Brandon ran the 2 strategic planning retreats, and they're working. We're doing
I remember
it.
us talking about that like in 2019. So like this is. Thank you, Brandon.
Okay.
Could I be added back to the agenda? Just there's a few things that I forgot to mention.
Sure.
I don't have to go now. I'm just asking.
Well, it's a good time because we're starting with
Under
old
Commissioner
business.
Communications at the end, which is already.
Oh,
I could do that.
you could do that.
no,
Okay.
it could be council commissioners.
Well, yeah, it would be fine.
Yeah.
That would make more sense.
Okay.
Yeah. add to that.
I want to talk to you for a minute about the social work project. I just got their okay, let me just tell you what the social work project is for Hannah, but to remind everybody. This is a project that we work on with the School of Social Work for Social Work 509 that Aisha started and Hannah participated in for 1 year. And it involves the fact that they need a research project, and Aisha decided why not make it count and get subjects that we're really interested in and subjects that are Ann Arbor specific. And I did that with Aisha for a couple of years, and when Aisha you stopped teaching
I stopped
1
teaching
year?
that class,
Yeah,
but
okay.
now I'm back at it, I handed it off to
Yeah.
another professor.
I went to another professor. and did it for them once a year. Each time I talk to the students about what Ann Arbor is like, because most of them are from Ann Arbor, what kind of government we have, what kind of things the Human Rights Commission does, and what kinds of things we've been talking about. And we come up with a list of maybe 10 topics that we were suggesting that they choose from. They didn't have to choose the 10 topics, but they most often did. This is the first year they didn't. They chose a couple of them, but not all of them. I mean, they chose some of their own, in other words. But we talked about some things that the research had to do, and what it has to do to be useful for us, and I think to be useful for them, is to define the problem. How do you know it? What does it look like? What are the parts of it? And then pick something that is a doable piece, a small piece, but something that is likely to help the city solve the problem. And then do research both on that problem and what other communities are doing, and choose a solution, and then tell us why you thought that was a good solution for the city of Ann Arbor. Mm-hmm. So these are papers that are targeted to at least the students' view of what Ann Arbor needs. And they do some research, and they get some statistics, and some of these papers are very good, and some of these papers are not that great, or not very helpful for us. But I give them, what I do is I give each group, they're groups, usually I have 5 or 6 groups in a class, and I give them an overview of why I thought it was a problem, and place to start. So usually it's somebody who knows the issue, like the person who is the housing commission head, or somebody who knows Ann Arbor and it's their problem and they love to talk about it. If you use their time wisely, and our groups tend to do that. So they're interesting. This year they're different. We have in the past we've had written reports. This year they're really more like PowerPoints, but the PowerPoints are. I was impressed with how they were done, because by looking at the PowerPoints, you get a good story. You don't need it because there are tables of statistics, there's sort of conclusions built in, and when you're done, you have a very good overview quickly. It's not necessarily all correct. It's not necessary. I mean, they may not have talked to the people we would have talked to following through with, because I ask everybody to ask, who should I talk to about this? Who else should I talk to? But it's a good start, and having a library of these things can be very useful. I sent you all copies of the ones for this year. I just got them, and they were hard to pull off the Google Drive so I could send them to you, because they're all password protected, and it wasn't my password, so I had some problems with it. But I got it, and I hope you look at them and tell me if there is one you think would be something we'd be interested in seeing in January. Usually they can get them back together again, and they'd like to present that. That's actually presented, maybe rightfully, maybe wrongfully, as a real positive thing for this. If you look at problems we're interested in, and the commission likes it, they might even call you to present. So it's an incentive for them. It's an incentive for us, because it gives us a chance not only to do outreach, but also to inspire some students to understand the issues that most of them are going to deal with at some point, and it gives us a library of things that are an interesting thing to kick off any research we need to do. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you all that because first I want you to look at those. Then it's not going to take you long time, and I think you'll be fascinated by what you see. Some of them are not ones that I chose, like literacy in Detroit in schools, but they chose it, and I thought it was interesting enough that I'd put it in there anyway because it's good. But there's also things like people returning from prison, housing, and employment. And there's one disabilities. They're disabilities. I think they must have been assigned an opportunity to have a flyer first of all, and then a report. So sometimes there are 2 or 3 files on the same subject. Some of them is a flyer, but it's sort of it's not heavy with information. The reports are heavy with information, and they're interesting. And hopefully it will be a good presentation too. I haven't seen them, so look at them. I'm also telling you this because Aisha just asked me if I would do one in January, and I said yes, because I think this is good for us and good for them, and if they want it, that's nice. So I'm going to be asking you for topics soon. So that's that discussion. I have one other thing on the agenda, and then I'm done. Meeting with Chief Anderson. Pam, Linda, Judah, and I met with Police Chief Anderson on the 18th of November or something. He's been here about 8 months, 10 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's February. Mm-hmm. And it's taken us a while. He's been very busy, mm-hmm. as you can imagine, with an election, protesting. I mean, if you think about this year, it's been some year, probably for him in his first year. Mm-hmm. We talked about a number of things. It was very good. We try to have regular meetings with police chiefs because we do a lot of work with police chiefs, and this gives us a chance to form a relationship before we need it, and and the police chief is very central in.
I'm just cold.
And cold.
And it's warm in here. I know. I'm like.
It's central to what we do, human rights, often. So
No, that's emergency.
we talked to him about all kinds of things like, what's going on now. What was your first? What do you think about Ann Arbor? You're going to stay. What?
Leslie, you're so funny.
I'm sorry. I had nothing to drink before this meeting. And I wrote down what we talked about. I know why. I'm meeting. Yes. Incidents that occurred over the months, mostly human rights issues, hate issues, issues that came out of the war in Palestine. His experience working with other law enforcement entities in the county. Unarmed response. The city administrator has just returned from Durham, North Carolina, to look at what looks like a very good unarmed response. We're very interested in that program, and we found out that he went and he was impressed and had some changes he'd want to make. And what do we expect to deal with in the next couple months, and is he ready? So, training programs, a lot of things. We're going to try to meet with him again at the end of January. Other people can, we can only meet with 4 people. After we get this warmed up, other people will be able to join us, and some of us won't be there. But right now, it's Pam and Judah and Linda and myself. Okay. right to sit amendment to the ND, non-discrimination ordinance. Linda?
So, thank you, Kennedy. The changes that that I worked on to, sorry, I don't know, I can't speak tonight. Our website is now amended to include the new right to sit information. The language from the non-discrimination ordinance that was changed is in there with a description of how to file a complaint. You can click on a link, which takes you to a page, which is a right to sit complaint, which has something about again, information about the right to sit on that page with a little bit of the process of what happens when they file the complaint. It's a very simple complaint, just asks for, I sent it to all of you before it went up, but just asks for the employee's information, the supervisor or employer's information, and just a box to explain how they feel their right to sit was violated. And that's up and running. So now the question is, what can the city especially do to get the word out that this new right to sit exists and that people can file complaints? Sure, we can do stuff, but it feels like city council did this. Maybe city council can work with communications to put it in their newsletter or do whatever it is.
I can definitely.
Because, Leslie can put it in our email that goes out to, 300 different people and organizations, but we don't do that for, maybe it is important enough that it deserves its own email, but we don't like to inundate people with email every time there's something, but this is a big deal, so thank you, Aisha.
Oh yeah, thank you all of you. I can bring it up to Milton.
Okay.
I'm meeting with them this Friday, so I can bring it
Okay.
up to them.
Yeah, just whatever, whatever
Yeah.
blasts of information go out.
It might be nice to have a poster.
Well, that's the other thing I did, because Pam said that that CTN would take our flyers and scroll them somehow, and so they needed a right to sit poster or, and so I had written to Margie to see if she or we could work with communications to do what they did for fair chance access to housing. They created a really nice looking poster. But I just heard back from Margie on a bunch of things yesterday, and I think we're going to meet, and I think she was going to contact you too.
Okay.
And so we'll bring that up with her again.
Okay.
No, thank you. And because something that Milton has said is that, like, if you guys having a budget for things like printing materials, like if we were to design our own poster, that's something that the city would cover and help us print. And I'm assuming we would distribute it to businesses, or maybe we should contact unions. We just need to be aware of also, the business community and how we interact with them and all of this,
yes, right.
while also wanting to uphold labor and worker rights. I think maybe contacting unions is a good place to start, and saying, would you help your workers to get the word out?
Yeah.
So I can think
how to do
something.
that. Even a digital flyer.
A digital flyer is a great,
But the communications department will do a better job than we can.
Yeah, I'll
So-
bring it up to Milton.
Okay.
And I think the city might do, because I think usually after we approve an ordinance, I think it's at the 6-month mark, there's often a press release, because that's
yeah.
usually when enforcement starts. So
This actually
we could-
enforcement started 10 days after.
Yeah. But I mean, right. But I think
That
that
just
there's
happens to
a
be
180-day something.
Got it.
But I think it could be one where we. That was a long way of saying there could be one where we release a press release. Maybe,
Yeah, that's good to
to
know.
the
That's good to know. Okay,
public
I'll mention
information
that.
officer.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, press release.
I should say I did some media hits.
Whatever.
Yeah, you did some TV interview, right? On this.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
There's been a little bit. The words were getting out a little bit, but
It did.
yeah.
I mean, it got
Yeah.
picked up
Yeah.
by even like USA News and PBS News, because I think 11 states have it. Joss, who's my policy fellow, helped with a lot of the talking points for this, and she helped me meet with the business community. 11 states have it, and it's not like a bunch of cities are doing this. And it is a really important labor protection, because then you don't have to, get a official diagnosis of having a disability and legally qualify for it. You still just have like a human right to sit. Not to make my case again, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So anyway,
It would be nice if, especially now, if you would let us know when you're going to speak about it so that we can track whether anything makes a difference.
Right, yeah.
We've never had that opportunity before.
Yeah.
Curious.
Yeah. Not really getting any press requests now, but I can definitely look into the city putting out something, and I can actually contact some of the media that did cover it. I'm pretty sure I always said Human Rights is the enforcement body, but maybe update the articles or their contact information, because that is important. Let people know who to go to.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, with the new link to the complaint form.
To the
'cause
complaint form.
That's the new piece. Yeah.
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 So I'll work on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Okay. I guess we are at new business. Does anybody have any new business? How about Commissioner Communications?
I do.
Or council members.
So not to drag out the meeting, I just wanted to provide some updates. So one is, obviously with the recent federal election, there's a lot of different marginalized groups that are really scared, and I've been contacted by some. I don't know if you guys have also been contacted. I assume so. One of the issues that we were looking into was what Sarah Petzmeyer had been working on prior to leaving, which was around doing sanctuary or shield laws protecting providers or patients who were either providing or receiving care for reproductive rights or gender affirming treatment, from protecting them from prosecution. So then we met with the city attorney's office, and they said, just sent me, that a lot of the protections, obviously reproductive care is enshrined in our state constitution from the ballot initiative that was passed, and gender affirming care, our county prosecutor and our city prosecutor are not going to prosecute around that. So some of these aren't, it's not going to make a difference, but there's also, we have to think about getting potentially negative attention through doing things that are, not performative, but semi-performative.
Yeah. No, whenever you're ready, I had a thought.
Yeah. There was also immigrant rights group that contacted me, and I looked into that. We are a welcoming city, which is a Michigan categorization of a city that welcomes immigrants and protects, to some extent, undocumented immigrants. It's not a sanctuary city. We have a 2017 resolution that was passed that does cover a lot of important things, not everything that we would want, but again, there would be some complications about bringing forward, for example, sanctuary city status, compromising federal funding, also making us a target for attack. So I wanted to provide those updates. And then there was one more update.
Okay.
The group that contacted me around amending our anti-discrimination ordinance to include caste has contacted me again. And as you guys may know, there was a pretty prominent case that rose up at University of Michigan, and they amended their non-discrimination ordinance. Actually, they didn't include caste, but they include something about it. I'm meeting with them, but I wanted to bring that up again. And also, you guys all know, and you could do your own research about cities that have included caste in their anti-discrimination ordinances, the kind of heat that they came under. So all of these issues, they're important. Right now, a lot of marginalized communities are really feeling vulnerable, and they are vulnerable. And it's also about balancing, like, how much good would we be doing versus harm, how important it is to say something so that vulnerable communities feel protected, but also realizing that what we're saying is not really going to do much. It actually could put some people more at risk. that's kind of where I'm at, but I wanted to give those updates on that work.
So, as you were talking, I was thinking maybe if we go up a level, right? Instead of talking about sanctuary cities, instead of talking about these things in isolation, that we could look at it. Do you guys remember broken windows policing?
Yes.
Right? That doctrine that if you handle these small things, right, you keep big crime from occurring, and right? We could do sort of take that same idea and apply it to human rights, such that decriminalizing driving without a driver's license.
Right, like the drive safe bill.
That's get a driver's license.
Okay.
This is, I don't have a driver's license, but I have to get to work and go home. And someone stops me. Right? If we can decriminalize mushrooms and marijuana, we could decriminalize the act of driving without a driver's license. Right?
Which could help a lot of undocumented.
Which will keep people out of the grasp. And there are all kinds of small little statutes like that that result in people being incarcerated. And if we take a more broad kind of,
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
what we're doing is we are protecting human rights. We're protecting the fairness of our communities such that people aren't being exposed to extraordinary consequences for very minimal things, very minor things.
That's good.
Then we don't have the negative attention because we're not just protecting an identity group. This is everybody that doesn't have a driver's license, right? It's decriminalized. It applies to all, right, all residents, so that it's not an identity. It's not for this group. It's not for that group. It's that here we want to protect people from harm. We want to protect them from consequences, right, that aren't commensurate with the act.
Like reducing interaction with police.
Right. So extending discrimination protections to caste certainly is a human rights issue. Certainly, not incarcerating people for minor offenses has been in the DNA of Ann Arbor forever, right? I mean, I think there's a lot that can be done that doesn't expose, right, different groups. We can protect homeless folks in the same way. We don't end up talking about them as homeless.
As an identity group.
They're, right, no one gets their stuff thrown away without notice, right?
Yeah. Chris, I think you wanted to jump in.
I wanted to say just about similar lines. I don't know how we would, I just wanted, so we were, in our policy agenda committee, we were talking with the city's lobbyists, and they were saying...
Which committee?
The policy agenda, that's where we advocate in Lansing for, the city's interest.
Okay.
And one of the things they talked about was we might want to do
Excuse me.
not exactly an audit, but we might want to see what information like the city is keeping and asking for. So just instead of the question of, it's similar to what you're saying of like, do we have any forms where we're asking for people's citizenship status, or are we keeping that information, as part of other documents?
Yeah, I think it's a records component.
Right. So I think that, and because they said like that's kind of the better situation, like if somebody were to ask, you can sort of say, well, we don't track that, and that kind of
well, and
is a better.
It's not criminalized.
So
right? It's not a crime. We don't track it because it's
right. Exactly. Yeah, just because it's just not on our forms or whatever. And so that might be one that we talk with the attorneys about or with administration about.
How could we go about getting statistics on what these minor crimes are that are producing, right, these criminal records and subjecting people to being fingerprinted and taken in? How can we get that? Is that
the one question I have is, the thing like the driver's license, isn't that a state law? And I don't know, state criminal law, I don't know that the city can do anything about that other than not enforce it? You know, like at least have it, or
just
the
like-
city, the
We've
police
been
don't have
doing
to.
non-enforcement of, right, all
But
of
we
these
can't sort of
drugs.
change the law.
No,
We
no.
can just not, right, okay.
Whatever
Right.
we do when
Right.
we decriminalized, or I don't know, if it looks like a administrative ticket that you're getting,
I see what you mean.
right?
Right.
That's
Yes.
what it would
Right.
be instead.
Change the way, yeah, to the extent that you can under the state law, yeah.
And I don't know what the drug statutes are that allows us to decriminalize
Right.
mushrooms. I mean, that
Right.
surprised me. I don't even know when
You know,
that happened.
I don't know.
I think that it's also just about prosecutors saying that we're not going to prosecute. Like, we had a meeting with Jen Janetsky, our city prosecutor, about immigrants, for example, and she said the highest number of undocumented cases that will come to me is through DUIs, and I just simply don't prosecute them. And do you remember when she was talking to us about that?
Yes.
It came from
DUIs.
the
And
highest
OWs.
number of
Of people who are flagged as being undocumented will come in from that citation or that infraction, and then she says, I just won't prosecute them. And I don't know if she means like she won't make them go through the legal system, or what was your
It
interpretation?
kind of sounded like she won't take the cases.
Yes, yeah.
It was like a personal choice.
It was a personal
does that
choice.
mean
Yeah, no,
somebody
but
So
that
that it
doesn't
doesn't
get them?
flag those people in the system.
yeah. I mean, non-enforcement of all, as many inhumane policies as we have is good. But I really wanted to target ones where most people would agree they're not, these things that we have on the books as crimes should be reviewed so that we're not subjecting folks to punishment and consequences that exceed what the community would agree, right, is not a crime. And it shouldn't subject you to a criminal sanction that, could separate you from your family or land you in prison or, right? And I wouldn't have put DUIs in my list because I think non-enforcement is their decision. But when we talk about a broad policy, I think it has to be more universal without being associated immediately with the harm.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that a DUI certainly produces harm more regularly
Right.
than someone just driving without a driver's license.
Right.
Yeah.
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 So that's some-
And then I would ask if everyone if people, my communications with folks have been that people are being picked up who are not the drivers.
So, and I think it's that, and from what I've heard, this is what I heard from a community organization that contacted me, it's raids that are happening, calling in ICE officials to specifically a trailer park on the southeast side of town, which I actually think is in Ipsy. So, how do you can't really stop that. Right?
Can't stop which
It's ICE officials.
raids?
Yeah, raids in a trailer park located off Carpenter Road.
We can look at.
We can look at it.
Who's assisting? Did the
I think it's the county, but yeah, why don't we meet about this, and maybe we could even meet with John Janetsky and Chris if you want to.
But I would even just from the beginning talk about it.
Yeah, as
I think I think the overall, sort of an overall mantra, I guess, since the pandemic has been to decrease unnecessary police and resident interactions, and I think, but so it's not exact. It's I think what the goal, what is the goal in decreasing interactions? It's all of these things. It's any sort of adverse thing that happens further down the line, and as you're talking about, starting off that interaction over, for example, I mean, we were even talking about things like, let's say you have. You're breaking our sign ordinance or something, having an officer perhaps send a letter or leave something rather than knocking on your door and taking your information. So I think that there are ways that I think the directive has been to get rid of the to decrease interaction between unnecessary police interaction. I mean, I think Linda did raise the point of like, there is a level where the city can't supersede the state, and there's also, as you're saying, when it comes to like ICE and other things, there's things where the agencies can say, our police department has literally said we won't go along with this, we won't go along with this drug enforcement, for example. That agency can come in and just do it of their own accord, if state, federal, whoever it is. So, but I think these are, ideas that we've kind of kept.
The reality is the
increasing
more
their
people in the community, not police officers, right? The more just people in the community who decide you don't belong here,
Sure.
and who target you for negative consequences are far more, they're just more than there are numbers of officials, right? They're the folks that call. They're the folks that target. They're the folks that name. And I think there's something really to be gained, not by describing it as sanctuary, because again, that's about identity, but describing it as human rights first, right? Right? Protection. We are about protecting human rights and creating a protective environment for everyone.
I think one thing, the banning secondary stops, decriminalizing secondary stops, I think that's another way, because think about it, if someone is driving without a license and they have a broken taillight and a cracked windshield, and from what I've heard recently from the police chief, this is being implemented. I mean, there are still some incidences where these individuals do get pulled over, but in large part it's been enforced. Those people, they have all those things, but they're not going to get pulled over because we don't pull over people for secondary stops. So then something that would get someone pulled over, let's say, who's not a citizen, is a DUI, or they're recklessly driving. And I guess my question for you would be, if you don't have a license and you don't criminalize for that, you can still hold someone responsible, though, for reckless driving, correct? Because that is like an endangerment. And what you were saying, harm. So I'm not saying that all cases of individuals who would get flagged as undocumented while driving, I guess is what it is.
I just know, how it really happens, right? I mean, it's not a police officer just driving down the street.
Right.
Right? Someone has talked to that police officer. Someone has
you're saying
asked
it's
them.
Neighbors and
They're far more responsible for identifying, contacting, facilitating. It's the eyes. And I just think if we can really begin to promote a community, right, where we're protecting each other because of our shared humanity rather than.
Yeah.
I think part of that also is dispatch, like the sheriff's dispatch. That they've talked about that idea of it becomes kind of like a racism by proxy, because if the police get if police get dispatched to an area because of somebody calling for a trivial or perhaps racially nationality motivated call, it's really it would really be the dispatcher's job to kind of step in and say, hey, what crime really is happening? What is the probable cause? And so I think that actually Washtenaw County has taken some leadership in the training of its dispatchers to try to titrate that and sort of get them to kind of steer people away from, hey, if there's not actually something that's endangering public safety, if it's just sort of your hunch or your suspicion of your neighbor, let's not dispatch police force to this location. And I think that's something that'll be kind of hopefully increasing with the new sheriff, and I think it's just something to keep talking about.
I would like to know where data is stored in the city about people's.
Yeah, I think that's one we could ask.
That's something we could ask for.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like a practical way
Is that
to start.
something we can ask you to come up with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that answer.
Yep. Yeah, sure.
We
We can
propose it
work.
as a question.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if this will help, but I think I read that in Michigan, driving without a license is one of the main reasons people are in jail.
I heard that.
It's not a
I heard
small
that.
thing.
I didn't say it as a random matter. I have heard that also.
Yeah.
And it is just heartbreaking. Right?
Because if they can't pay their
Right. They couldn't pay the
money,
ticket
then they're
in the first
jail.
place.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you want to just look that up and come back to us next?
Look which up. Talk any of these ideas that I just sort of threw out. Do they have it?
Well,
yes, I will. I will actually, because I was going to put down some of the ID stuff falls under there also.
I mean, not a whole thing, just
more protections.
information.
Right?
Let's see.
If you've got an ID, you're also less likely to be taken back.
Isn't
anywhere.
the new federal administration, who shall not be named, thinking about these federal? I heard about registries for reproductive care. Did you guys hear about that? Or is
I
that
didn't. That's
What?
Oh
or is that
my
like
God.
sensationalizing? Yeah. So I mean, talking about, I think
2020.
I was like, you never know.
you never. There's a part of me that's like, that's never gonna. And then I'm like, I said that about all the things happening now. So I mean, when it comes to data protection and finding out where people's names are listed, either in regards to immigration status or it's something that I think we should start looking at now because who knows what's going to happen in the future is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
So what is that particular scary story?
Registries for people who are seeking reproductive abortions.
Wouldn't that violate HIPAA?
That's what I was thinking.
yeah.
As soon as you have your period,
Who else has
Pretty
heard
good
of
law
it?
right there.
Right, remember young men have to register for the draft?
Yeah, they're in the darts at the wall stage of messaging.
Yeah.
Now, so I think we'll probably see.
Keep track of you.
Right.
It always changes.
Follow you.
Yeah. I don't think they will.
Okay. Anything else before we adjourn?
And that they now have a lot of power.
So we're going to come back with a little bit more information about these two issues.
Oh, yeah. Put some
Yeah.
things in writing.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can find out where data is.
Any more commissioner communications?
Nope.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. See you in January.